I sat on the couch every day and sat there thinking, how on earth can anyone make a TV programme out of this nonsense?
The winner of Big Brother is Craig. Can you hear me?
Nasty Nick for writing down people's names on a piece of paper.
Not that big of a deal.
That was
now.
headline news, you know. The moment the camera stopped then, it went quite dark and scary. I was wished away. None of my family and anyone could get to talk to me. It felt like I was being kidnapped. He sat me down and said to me, he said, Craig, your life has changed forever. Tomorrow you will be on the front page of every national newspaper. You will be the most talked about person in Britain. Just being famous, you're famous for winning Big Brother. I was up there at one day, but that's all I know going on. Yeah, I had my moments of the partying with all the bands and all the famous people. Man, I felt a bit of a fraud. This is not me, and I was just kind of like not enjoying it.
What's your opinion on reality TV now?
They don't really, in my view, care about the individual's personal feelings or mental health. It's more about structuring it for the entertainment, the shock value at any cost. I was 13 years of age and my dad took the dog for a walk, gets run over and killed by a drunk driver. I was so scared thinking, how can I physically protect my mum? We live in a rough part of Liverpool, there's a lot of crime.
I think that's something you've still got today that's driven you.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Success School podcast. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and taking time to listen to the show today. And I also just want to make sure you are aware that my whole mission with this podcast is to be able to give people access to conversations that are going to enlighten, they're going to inspire, and they're going to give you the information needed to genuinely start to live a happier, a healthier, and a more fulfilling life. But here's the thing, I am just one man. So that's really, really hard to get a lot of people to be positively impacted when I'm doing this alone. So I'm just going to ask a little favor. And I know you're probably sick of hearing this. You probably hear it on every podcast you listen to. But please, if you genuinely do think this podcast is valuable and can help people, if you could just take a second to hit that subscribe button and maybe go one further, tell other people about it, share it on your Insta stories, anything you can do to help bring more awareness to the show would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for being here, and I really hope you enjoy this episode.
I just want to start by saying I can confirm he's got a bloody lovely gaff. But you should do, right? Because of your background, this is your thing. You actually, am I right in thinking
we designed and built this house, yeah. Laura and I bought the premises, the land itself, 2014.
Yeah.
Took about 2.5 years to get planning permission, and then we eventually started it in about 2018, I think it was. Got it finished in 2019 when Laura was 40 weeks pregnant. She was like, ready to pop. We got 4 bathrooms and none of them were working. She was having to go to the gym every day for a shower. Yeah. So I was shamed in to get it finished. So
with a pregnant wife as
well. I know, shame on me, shame on me. So we had to get all the builders out of the house and we just got 1 bathroom finished. And then Nelly, our daughter, was born in here.
What I love about it is you've got this, obviously it's a beautiful place, but you've designed it so that you can work from here as well, right? You've got your studio and everything, so this is like living the dream, right?
It really is like living the dream, and when we were more or less completing this in 2019, nobody knew COVID was coming about. And my day-to-day work was racing around the country, going to TV studios, going to people's houses, doing makeovers and things like that. And I'd had nearly a good 20 years of actually doing that. But I always knew I wanted to settle down, have a family, have children, and then kind of do more work from home. Yeah. So when we built our kind of TV studio, which I'll show you around in a bit, it's all our premises. We just thought, well, we can shoot some online videos there, maybe do some training workshops for DIY and things, and cut down a little bit on me driving. COVID comes along, obviously, at the start of 2020. And the world come to a stop, as you very well know. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we can't go to people's houses. We can't go to a studio. I can't race up and down the country. So we've got to start working from home. So it was kind of a blessing that we actually had this nice big house where we had a bar, a games room, plenty of room for the kids. We had a home office anyway, designed in there. Now we had this big workshop. Now we've got to turn it into a studio and shoot our online content from here, you know. So
and then you start to go, actually, life's better not having to drive everywhere, right? So
exactly,
it still works today.
And it was something that I always wanted to change over time. Yeah. Did never get round to changing it. You know yourself, you can just get caught up in the waves. You keep riding them and you keep going with the businesses and the money and where the demand is, you'd have to keep going for it. And then given time, once we've realised what we've built here, this house, this studio, I can actually do 95% of my work now from home, and I walk across our drive.
So you were ahead of your time then, because obviously a lot of people have found since the whole lockdown thing that work from home works really well for people. Because a lot of employers as well were like, you can't do this. But actually then everyone's adapted and gone, people have better work-life balance. But, you know, not everybody, and certain jobs you can't, right? But that was always what you had in mind, right? Yeah,
that's the way I wanted to try and work it too. So let's say COVID forced me into that a little bit more. And although it was terrifying at the time, it turned out better for me in a way for me and my family, you know, and rightly so what you said, it has proven the world's changed, hasn't it, because of it, because it has proven many people now can adapt and work from home just as good as they did previously. Whether they worked in sales, they can do it on the computer, you know. Businesses, they can just run from home now.
I always say that. I think like when you're backed into a corner, human beings are really good at figuring stuff out and making it work. But sometimes when you're not backed into a corner, you'll just keep going. And that's what COVID did. The easy option. But as you say, the world has changed dramatically, and that's a nice segue into Big Brother, because the world has changed a long way since back then. So that was back in 2000. You know, I'd love to chat a bit about that. I mean, first and foremost, what was life before Big Brother? Where were you at that point?
Okay, so I was 28 years of age. I'd been running my building company for just over 10 years in Newport, Shropshire. I wasn't living in Liverpool then. And life was good. Life was going in the right direction. I never really had any ambitions to work on TV or become, you know, known in the public eye or anything like that. And it was never ever in my plan or my direction in any way. With our building company, we did everything from plans right through to completion. I had about, at some stage, 30 men working for me on it, you know. So
a lot of people don't realise that you were really successful in your business. People just go, oh, it's Craig the Builder.
Yes,
but no, you actually was a businessman, right?
I was a businessman, and I'd run a good building company, and I'd learnt a lot of skills, and I can honestly say that is the key to my success now. In the media side, I would have never have worked on over 2,000 television programmes if I didn't have my building skills. And I only got that from running my own company, you know. And
learning the hard way.
Learning the hard way, employing a lot of builders who were way better than me, way quicker than me. And I would labour for them, you know, and just learn from them. In the earlier stages, back when I was 18, I did, you know, do the one-day release course from work to go to college and things. And I did a lot of night school classes, which for me was a real daunting thing, because I didn't enjoy school. I was quite poor at school. I sagged off all the time. I was always in trouble. I left school at 15, didn't sit a single exam. I was dyslexic. The school didn't know that at the time. They just looked at me as being stupid. My teachers used to say to me, you know, you've got no career, Craig. The way you're behaving in school, you'll only end up in jail. You've got nothing going for you, you know. And when in 2004, I started in 2003, 3 years after Big Brother. I set up my own independent construction training academy because I wanted to put more back into the industry, because the building side of things have been so very fortunate for me and helped me in so many directions. And at that time, I've been out the Big Brother house for 3 years. I had a sole contract with BBC, so I could only do BBC makeover programs and things, but I wanted to give a bit back and help students who didn't have the opportunities. And we opened our doors in 2005, January 2005. Cherie Booth, the Prime Minister's husband at the time, wife at the time, come down, opened it. We had 26 teachers, 152 students. What did I do? I invited my school teachers.
Yeah, really.
Come down and have a little look.
Come and look at how Craig's done.
Yeah. We had some of them asking me for a job.
Wow.
And I often say to people, be careful who you step on the way up the ladder, because you don't know who you meet on the way down. You know?
I think like a lot of the premise of this podcast, Success School, is kind of aligned with what you're saying there, which is traditional education is just one form of education. It's not everything, but we do put it on a pedestal, because as kids we're told, do what your teacher says, and if your teacher says, like they did to you, you'll never amount to anything, that can really be someone's identity into their 50s, 60s if you're not careful. And I think it's good to hear from people like yourself who actually didn't let it define them, went and paved their own way without needing your A-level, GCSE, whatever. And then obviously you say, and I think one thing I'm interested in is the longevity of that you have been in TV without necessarily chasing fame and that kind of stuff, because I feel like a lot of people do chase that, right?
Of course,
but that was never the thing.
It was never my targets at all. My building company don't get me wrong, it was hard. I struggled, I was working sometimes 100 hours a week, and had a great turnover, and everyone was getting paid. I was the last person to get paid, so I was always trying to better it, always trying to get bigger projects. I mean, we're talking, the 90s, it was then, when I was taking on projects that were nearly £250,000 for one project. We had another 2 or 3 over there, so I was juggling my time with staff, etc. But I never wanted to be famous. I never wanted the TV stuff. And at the time, my choice to go on Big Brother was, we were helping little Joan Harris, a Down syndrome girl who needed a heart and lung transplant at the time. She couldn't have it in the UK because she was Downs. So we thought...
It sounds crazy today.
It sounds crazy, and it is discriminating,
Exactly.
No matter what way you look at it, you're discriminating particularly a child. And for her conditions, it is no fault of her own. So we were doing the typical charity event, shaving our hair and this, that and the other, trying to raise a bit of money to be able to get her to go to America for a heart lung transplant. But we need £250,000. We saved about 20 odd grand or 25 grand in a year. The price of the operation.
Is still great, but...
Still great. It was a lot of money in them days. The price of the operation was going up.
Right.
So we were just in negative equity. We weren't getting anywhere. And I seen a documentary in Holland about Big Brother. And they were the founders, the developers of Big Brother. Endemol. And this documentary I seen was saying we might be doing this in the UK and we'd be looking for 10 housemates. So I thought, do you know what? I'll write them a letter. And all that drew me into it was, I thought being on the TV and doing that bit of a show, we didn't really know much about it, will be hard, but there's a 70 grand prize. Yeah. And if I can put that to Joanne's appeal, and you know what I thought? If I can get one bit of publicity, maybe just get one newspaper or one magazine write about that, it can help.
Raise a bit
so
money.
I kind of thought, okay, well, I'll jump in there, try and win, try and win this 70 grand. So that was my reasons for it. I wrote off to the production company, handwritten letter. In them days, I couldn't even use a computer. And basically...
Makes you sound so old, Craig, doesn't it?
I know. I just wrote them a letter to say, if you're thinking of doing this in England, consider me as an applicant. And I wrote about 1 page about myself, and it was just a little bit where I come from in Liverpool, my poor background with school and everything else. And I've, stepped away from that. I've gone to Shropshire. I've now got a good reputable business, 28 years of age. I like me training, blah, blah, blah. And I just said to them, I think I'll be a good contestant on your show.
That was it?
And that was it, yeah. And it was 7 or 8 months later, I'm up on a roof, I'm doing LED flashing. And, phones are as big as this at this point, you know what I mean?
Could you play Snake? That was the one game,
No,
wasn't it?
I don't even
it was
think...
before
It was older than that. They were the real big, is it not Vodafone or Nokia ones or something like that at the time? And it rings, and it's this producer. Normally people ring me out of Yellow Pages or Thompson's Local. Craig, can you give us a quote or something? And I would be, Endemol, who? I don't know who you are. Big Brother? I don't know what you're talking, and I generally forgot about it and didn't know what Big Brother meant. And they were like, it's a television programme. You wrote a letter to us. And I was like, oh, God, I did. Yeah, right.
70 grand.
So it went on, 70 grand, yeah. And then it went from there then, and then they were like, we'll send you some official forms to fill in and start the ball rolling. And it was a good 6 or 7 months of applications and group games in hotels with hundreds, thousands of other people all turning up for them. Yeah, it went on a lot, And I remember this one place. I had to go to Birmingham to a hotel, and there must have been 400 or 500 people there, and I stayed the whole day. And I was getting put into different groups and different scenarios where people had to work things out, and because I had the building background and my management skills as well, when we're on site, we get problems every day. I've got to work out. Yeah. How do I get over this problem? If I can't get over it, I've got to get under it. Yeah. If I can't get under it, I've got to go around it. But
so
one
you're
way
a
or another,
solver then, aren't you?
I believed I was a leader and not a follower. Everyone who works for me were followers, and they would wait to be told what to do. Yeah. I'm a leader, I won't wait. I think of what needs to be done. I tell them, so...
Do you think that's what got you on the show?
Yeah, well, it could have been a small part of it, because I was looking at these scenarios. I can't even think of an example, They give us a load of buckets, a load of rope. You can't stand in that line. You've got to get from A to B and blah, blah, blah. You use your team. And straight away, everyone's looking and studying. And I'll be like, if you two guys stand across there and pull that rope there, we tie that one and put it across. We can take that. Wow. And all of a sudden, this group of 10 or 12 all tuned into me, listened to me, and took my direction of these tasks. And this was happening throughout the day. I kept feeling the cameras were coming over to me more and more, following and listening more than anybody else around me. So I was thinking, I'm doing all right here. This is what they want to see, a bit of leadership in what the tasks at hand are. So I felt as if that went really good and successful for us, and it did. Called me up for the next one then, and then it got narrowed down then to police applications, what are they called there, crime checks, medical checks. We've done psychiatric screening, you know, quite a few, probably I would imagine the type of things that you doing yourself when you went onto the reality TV programmes. And then it got down to, they sent me this one form, and it was 70 or 80 odd pages on there. Really, really personal questions. Don't answer in no more than 1,000 or 5,000 words. And it took me weeks and weeks, and I was going all the way through it. Anyway, one of the questions, right? I'm sitting there late at night. I swear you know, about 10 o'clock at night, I'm doing my VAT returns for my building company. I've got paperwork up and down, lines of them all the way through the living room, the hallway, trying to get everything done. My accountants ring me, you're late, you're going to be fined. And I got this bring, and I'm going through the questions, and some of them were so personal. I mean, so personal, even like about entertaining yourself personally in bed, that type of stuff. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? And I was just a bit like, why do you need to know all this crap? And I got it, I threw it on the floor. I thought, I'm done. I don't, what type of show is this going to be? I'm done. They don't need to know how personal we really are, you know what I mean? So I threw it on the floor, and ironically, this lady rings 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, one of the producers, and says, Craig, you know, 3 weeks ago we sent you out this big application. She said, I said, I'm done. You know, I've done all the group games, I've done all this, that and the other. I said, I don't like what you think you're doing. You're asking me to answer them in 1,000 words and this, that and the other. And she said, listen, Craig, said, I shouldn't tell you this, but you're down to the last 50 people. Wow. And there's been 45,000 applicants. Wow. And only 50 people have had this sent out. And she said, the other 49 people we've got them in. Wow. She said, please, even if you don't even want to finish the rest of it. I said, I've got halfway through every night. I've been doing half an hour on it. I said, I'm done now. She said, please just send it to me, recorded delivery tomorrow morning. Wow. Yeah.
So you were literally out.
Yeah. I was done. I was out. I wasn't going to do it. Wow. So then I started to be cocky in writing. Maybe it was another 5 or 10 pages. I can't remember. And I just thought,
your mindset's different now.
I'm not bothering writing hundreds, thousands of words about what me describing stuff. No. And I read a newspaper article that day about risk. And this guy, the story was about this guy leaving university, and he had to do one of his final essays or whatever into it. And he was asked to write an essay on, it was something daft like, 100,000 words on defining risk.
Okay.
Right? And do you know what he put? This is why there was an article wrote about it. He just wrote, this is. And he put it in. And, you know, he was willing to lose on his final exams or whatever he's doing, his dissertations, that I'm just going to make a major risk here and just put this is and put it in. That's and it stuck in my mind because I'd read of it. I just thought, what cocky, but confidence. Yeah.
And clever.
And clever as well, yeah. So I was like, give us my thing.
Yeah, the floor, this
is. No, I didn't write this is, but then it was like, what will you most miss in 64 days? Sex. What will you most miss in this? Food, drink, alcohol, you know, all them type of things. I just thought I'd be cocky.
Wow.
Because I'm done with it now. I can't be arsed. And I sent it off. So I said, I'll stick with my word. I'll put it in recorded delivery the next day. And then it was shortly after that, you know, within a few weeks or so, I got the phone call to say, Craig, you're chosen. You're one of the 10.
How did you feel?
And, I felt like I was a winner.
Already?
I did, without even going in the programme. Yeah. Because what was going on in my mind is 45,000 people have applied. I was shortlisted down to the last 50. Now I've been picked the last 10. I'm going in that house.
And did you, at that point, was you like, I can win this? Did you always believe you could win it? Or did it change then of just, well, I'm already a winner?
I kind of, for me, the point I was in my life then was, I was always working hard to win that contract. I was competing at Thai boxing and doing boxing, so I was always physically, I'm going to win that, I'm going to do that, and I can achieve anything. So I went in that program with only one mindset. I'm going in to win. Really? I'm not going in to make friends. I've got enough friends. Don't need any more friends. I want that money, and I want to hopefully get a newspaper article. You know, I was just hoping on the one.
I think that's a great example of when the goal is bigger than just yourself. You were doing this for her to get the operation. Yeah. So it wasn't like a selfish reason of, like we were talking about there. Yeah. People just want fame and fortune. That it was a totally different thing for you, right?
Totally, absolutely, totally, yeah. And I just went in there, and then when I kind of got down to the studios the day before, I went down with my sister on the train, and then we put in this hotel, and we had another last chat with the psychiatrist who had already met on previous interviews and things like that. It was kind of feeling, wow, it's real, and I can sense I can sense a lot of responsibility. I can sense a lot of hype and nervousness from the production crew and things around me. People coming to my bedroom when we were taking us for dinner. They're on radios, oh, stop the guest there. Because what we didn't know was some of the other applicants were over there in that bar or over there. They were eating at that table and we can't meet them, you know, but we didn't know them and they didn't know us. So it was just a matter of keeping everybody apart.
And then you was in for 64 days, right?
64 days all in all, yes.
Being filmed from every angle, going to the toilet, everything.
Yeah, 8 main cameras that you can see all around you. You had about 12, 15 cameras behind the one-way mirrors. You know,
how was that? Because that's an invasion of
directly above
everything.
your head.
Yeah,
it is. It's quite intimidating. I can say it's quite can make you a little bit paranoid.
Okay.
You know, it's not a nice feeling having cameras all around you.
Was you ever worried? Did you ever think this? I could say something, do something. There's going to have real repercussions here.
Well, not really, because I was very naive.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the power of editing, so that helped. That made us a bit more relaxed. We were just nervous because of this whole experiment, and nervous the fact that we're normal people on TV. Yeah. And in them days, there wasn't really normal people on TV. You had your presenters, your pop stars, your sports personalities, and all them people who were very successful, who've built up their careers, worked very hard to get recognised and now become on TV.
Yeah.
And now we haven't done any of that.
Yeah.
We're kind of nobodies, really. And now we're put on TV and we're on people's television screen every night of the week.
And there's no blueprint to follow, is there? Because there was no Big Brother before. You were the first series, so you, like a lot of people now go into shows, they know what to expect largely, right? So, and I guess you didn't even know if anyone would be watching, right?
I sat on the couch every day, hand on heart, and sat there thinking, what is this crap around us? How on earth can anyone make a TV programme out of this nonsense?
Really?
Because we're just sitting around the honeymoon stage, the first week, we're all chatting, we're having a laugh, and it's all good and it's well, and then you're starting to, you know, I like them a little bit more than them, they don't like me. We're doing the tasks, and then it kind of started to wingle down. After week 4 or 5, a couple of nominations people out, it got boring, it got challenging, because I was working, before I went in, I was working 100 hours a week, juggling everything from meetings, diary on there, trying to fit a bit of a party life in, a social life, trying to fit a bit of a relationship in, trying to do too much work, all of that to stop. To nothing. I didn't know the time, I didn't know the date, I had no phone, didn't have to be anywhere. So that mindset of really like, and I haven't watched the programme I was in, but everyone said, you know, I come out and done thousands of radio stations, so I watched the show through everybody, all the presenters telling me, you said this on day 42, at 7 o'clock at night, you'd done this and you'd done that. So I heard it all. So it was as if I knew everything what happened in the show and everything that got broadcasted through everybody else's vision, you know, through kind of telling me. And I just kind of sat there every night in there just thinking, this is boring, how on earth can you make a programme? But the power of editing and the fact that it was new, it was the first programme that gave the audience the opportunity to decide who stays and goes. Yeah. You know, we were being dictated to by Big Brother. We were given a small budget to live on, so you were stripped right down to the bare basics. I remember Brett Carr, the psychoanalyzer, before I went in, he said to me, he said, Craig, you can go into this house with your best friends, pick your 10 best friends and family, and under them circumstances, you'll fall out. You'll bicker about things.
Just that circumstance, it's not normal. Like you say, you've not got anything else to do, you're just there living and breathing it.
Yeah.
Let's go to the point then, you win Big Brother, you become the first winner, and I guess, talk me through that, like the minute you leave, get interviewed by Davina, and then you know there's actually been an audience watching. What was that like?
So I got told that Davina announced the winner, and it was down to me and Anna last. So it was kind of like, phew, and I was just kind of like more relieved to get out. And then I just thought, okay, great, I've got the money for Joe. And all the time when I was in there, I never ever said it once. So they got no footage of me saying, I'm in this to win it for a young girl. I don't want to say the word sick, you know, a girl who's affected and needs a heart run.
Why did you never say that?
Because I generally wanted to win. If I'm going to win, because
Really?
I compete, you know, I do Thai boxing, so I generally believe you've got to have a fair fight. I don't want to fight someone who's got an advantage on me,
Get it on like a sympathy
and I'm not
vote,
willing to
sort of.
fight someone who I've got a big advantage over them, you see. So I always believe in a fair fight. So I thought, well, if I'm going on the programme, people are watching it, I want it to be fair. I don't want the sympathy vote.
Yeah.
Oh, he's helping that poor little girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought, do not mention it. And it was hard because people in there were talking about, oh, if I win, I'm going to pay this towards my mortgage, I'm having an extension, I'm buying a Ferrari, I'm travelling around the world. And I just, every time that conversation come about, I just made myself scarce, go and have a little bit of a sleep, you know. And
that's impressive.
Yeah. Just thought I'd get myself away from it all to try and make it be genuine. But yeah, Davina said, you've won. And it was kind of relief. It was excitement. Anna went out. And then as soon as Anna went out the door, Big Brother was like, okay, Craig, you've got to stay in the house now for another, like, it's like 45 minutes. I was like, for 1 minute, no, I wasn't that excited to win. I was that excited to get out. And then it was 45 minutes. Oh my God, my energy, everything flopped.
Really?
So I thought, what am I going to do in this house now? It's so quiet. Well, and they said, you're not going out straight away. Davina's coming in. And there's going to be about another 10 more people. Cameras, sounds, people are going to be calling lights. Davina's going to walk around the house. She's going to go in the kitchen, going to go in the bedroom. So I was thinking, oh shit, I better tidy up. This place stinks. This place is a mess. What will my mother think of me? So I quickly started to mop and clean all up and things like that. So I wasn't getting that excited. I was thinking, I've got guests coming in the house now. State of the place. So frantically trying to clean up and tidy and things. And then next minute, Davina comes in. And Davina was all over the place. It was a live show, and it was, bearing in mind, she knew there was 10, 12 million people watching live. I didn't.
You didn't.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, it was just, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I've got a new person to talk to. Person in person. Yeah. You know, not just Big Brother behind a lens, you know, or a one-way mirror. So that was like, oh, great, I've got a human being. I was looking at all these cameramen and everyone all panicking and running around, getting in. So that was kind of like
so
good
surreal.
and weird.
Yeah.
And then I got took out. I walked down the gantry, all these fireworks going off. My sister comes running over to me, family all bouncing around like that. And then Davina gets Joanne there live. And that's one of the best live TV moments of the year where little Joanne was there. I didn't know she was going to be there. And I just said, you know, Joe, we're taking you to America. I've got the money. I've done what I promised you. And then Davina, I think, asked me to tell the cameras, you know, why have you been collecting? So I mentioned, you know, she's down, so we need your help. The NHS won't operate because she's down, this, that and the other. Wow. And then from that moment, within about 6 days, we super exceeded the 250,000 because everyone was just sending in money, you know, and I mean, big people. Chris Evans gave me 50 grand live on Virgin Radio. The Beckhams, Branson, you know, Rich Branson, come and meet me on one of our planes. We'll do a photo shoot, give you 10,000 or whatever it was, you know. So
what I love about that though is people had fallen in love with you, and obviously that's why you went on to win. So then when they then heard that story, people just obviously just wanted to help, right? Yes,
they did, and that was right down to children sellotaping 50p. To a handwritten letter.
Oh, bless them.
You know, sending it in. Honestly, it brings tears to my eyes.
Why were children watching that?
So I don't know.
I mean, it was a questionable thing to watch as a child.
But this little handwritten letter, you know, when I come out, I was getting 2,000 letters a day.
Wow. Without
my address on. Just Craig Big Brother. You know, you're only getting people like the Royals or Michael Jackson or someone like that would get a handwritten letter that would eventually get to them without an address on, you know. So Channel 4 had 16 people going through my mails, and each day I'd just get given a sack, and it'd all been vetted. You know, I don't know what all the letters said, obviously, but I made a purpose point to said, well, I'll pay for a letter to be sent back to everyone as thanking them for the support and the money, things like that. And I remember I'd be taken in this chauffeur-driven car to another event, and there's loads of photographs, I'd be signing them all like this. I'd be opening some of the mail in the back, and this little girl said, my mummy tells me you do better things with your money because you help little sick girls or something like that, she wrote on this thing. And I was like, oh, bless. She said, I usually buy smash hits with my money. But this weekend I'm not going to. I want you to give it to Joanne. And I was like, oh, bless. I said to the driver, pull over at the shop here. I said, I go into the shop, buy me get some smash hits, you know, sign a little letter to the girl, put the cards and things like that into it, and said, make sure that gets to this address, you know.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
it's a lot of responsibility, isn't it? I think a lot of people crave the fame and all that kind of stuff. Those days, I think you told me, was it like something like 90 plus days that you didn't go home after you won?
97, yeah. So
97.
I come out at the house after 64 days. I was, after that live bit, the moment the camera stopped then, it went quite dark and scary, because that was all excitement, all the other Big Brother housemates. And then the moment them cameras ended at whatever, 11 o'clock, and it goes off air, that second, I was wished away.
Wow.
No, none of my family and anything like that could get to talk to me.
Wow.
I was wished away by bodyguards, police, and all these production companies. It felt like I was being kidnapped, because they were running me out of the studio with press coming at us, the public. There's 2,000 people in there. The railings were getting squashed over by everyone trying to get to me. I'm bungled in the back of a people carrier. It was like a 7 or 8 seater or a 9 seater people carrier, and about 15 people got in it with me, all big bouncers like this. Wow. And I'm kind of thinking, what the fuck is going on? I feel like I'm being kidnapped. Going, police escorts, blue light, where I was kind of like, what's happened? Where's my family? Why is no one explaining anything to me?
Because you still don't know how many people have watched, really.
I got no idea. And even though Davina said, some things, X amount of people voted, it wasn't really going in.
It doesn't register.
It's a delayed reaction, what you go through, I got took to this hotel, up through the fire stairs, and it was a big suite that cost thousands of pounds a day, And I remember being in there, and there was a lot of people. There was, again, 15 or 20 people in this suite, and the only person I recognised was Brett Carr, this psychoanalyzer, who had interviewed me and things beforehand, And throughout our time in Big Brother, we also, when we all had little dull, low moments, which we all did have some dull, low moments in there, we could get to speak to him. It was only the once, and they assured us, whatever you go in the diary room, you're not seeing him face to face in the camera, you'll hear his voice and you'll recognise his voice, and you can talk to anybody about it, and we assure you what you talk about on there isn't going to go out. So you can go in and have a little cry and, get everything off your chest if you want to, And we all did, and it all made us feel better. So it was really nice and assuring to see Brett was sitting there, and he was kind of the first to talk to me, because we had the lady there who's written the Big Brother book, who's only waiting, and it was going to print the next morning. She's going to be sitting up all night getting my version of it, and it was going to print the next morning, something like about 4 million copies of it, You have the press office from Channel 4 and Endemol. You've got all these, there's Peter Bazalgette, who owns Endemol, all these very important people there. Who was quite intimidating. Got all these bodyguards outside and things like that. I've got took up through the back fire stairs and things, it was really scary. And he sits down and he says, and I've said this on many times, and I'll get goose pimples in a minute on my arms. He sat me down and said to me, he said, Craig, your life has changed and will change forever, sort of thing. And I'm kind of like, okay, what? And he went, tomorrow you will be on the front page of every national newspaper. You'll be on the front page of every regional newspaper, every radio station, every news bulletin, and every TV news will be talking about you. And his words were, you will be the most talked about person in Britain. And I was kind of like, oh my God, you feel like, where'd you go from there? How'd you answer that? Nobody's mentally prepared for that, and bearing in mind, I didn't want that. I've had conversations with many famous people, very successful people who have had the highs and lows, who have worked hard all their life chasing that pinnacle point, and now I've got it, and I'm the last person to know about it. They were basically saying there isn't a person in the UK that won't identify you and know your name.
How did that feel? Were you scared?
Yeah. Really, really scary. So I'm trying to process it, and I could hear it all. And for a few minutes, I'd feel a little bit scared. And a few minutes, I'd be thinking, this isn't even true. This can't be.
It's like it's
this
not
can't
real.
be. Wait, what have I done? I haven't done anything. And I'm wanting to ask people, what have I done? What have I actually done? Because all I've done in there, and I've gone in, I haven't took it that serious. I've just tried to win. And throughout the period, I've argued, I've fell out with people, I've had a laugh with people. I haven't done anything different than what I do every day in my life on a building site or with my guys and friends,
So talk to me about that then, in terms of, because a lot of people don't understand what fame's really like. What are the bits people don't realise? Like, what was some of the worst it was for you?
It's kind of, we mentioned earlier on my podcast, didn't we? It's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
The fame, people automatically think, you're famous, you've got fame and fortune. That word goes together, doesn't it? Fame and fortune. Yeah. Firstly, that's not always the case. I know very many famous people who are skint, and are struggle. They're pigeonholed in whatever job they do, and they're hard to get the next thing. So the fame comes with responsibility, where you have to, you've kind of, I only ever want to be myself anyway, you know what I mean? I have friends now who knew me before Big Brother and say, you generally haven't changed. And I've met people shortly after Big Brother, you know, and now I'm still friends with them now, you know, and they said, you haven't changed from the early days when I was trying to get used to being famous and adapt to it and behave in a certain way, you know. So I think it's a hard thing to adapt to. You go through different things, you're excited, you're getting paid a lot sometimes for things you do, and a lot more than you've ever been paid before. So you've got that excitement and the hunger as a businessman. You want to do more of that because that's where the business is.
Yeah.
You've got agencies who are advising you can't do this, you should do that. TV are telling you you've got to do this or you shouldn't do that. And then you start being a little bit controlled by the industry and the fact that you have a responsibility now of being famous. So you can take it two ways. You can use and abuse it, and it might be short-lived, or you can be sensible about it and see it could potentially be a long-term career. Now, just being famous, you're famous for winning Big Brother. I was up there at one day, but that's only going to go down. And next year's Big Brother's obviously going to come, and year after, and all the time it's going to be diluted. So for me, it was about how do I merge what I know best, which is building and construction and design, into this world of fame and fortune. Yeah, I had my moments of the partying with all the bands and all the famous people and getting them photographs that they all kind of craved for. But for me, it was never, I didn't enjoy that. I used to know people who'd be like, oh, our publishers are taking us to that awards, or we're going to that. We need to be seen with them. And I felt a bit of a fraud. Really? I felt a little bit of this is not me. I'm trying to sell myself to that paparazzi or sell myself to that newspaper and that that TV channel. And I was just kind of like, I'm not enjoying this. I don't really want to do it. But then I quickly got snapped up by the BBC for doing the makeover shows, which then I felt I'm comfortable here now. The cameras don't faze me because I've lived with all these cameras around me. And you're asking me to do things, put a shelf up, put a picture up. I can build houses. I can do this with my eyes closed. And what, you pay me how much? Give me some of that. I'll sign a year's contract for that. And then I kind of felt as if I didn't have to go and hang around with all these celebrities.
You was in your
be
lane
photographed
then.
and all them things. Yeah, you're still friends with a few of them. Yeah, they know of you. It was a compliment that they all knew me. And I felt very popular that they all wanted to spend time with me. They didn't. They just wanted my publicity.
How did that feel?
They're not really my friends, were they? You know,
just using it.
Well, now Richard Branson has got all his publicity. How many times did he call me after that?
I'm going to guess
he
none.
didn't. Don't get me wrong, that wasn't, excuse me, there was a lot of other celebrities who I did keep in touch with, and I've seen at many occasions, and we swapped phone numbers and things like that, which that was nice. They were more genuine, you know. So that was good, but being a businessman, I quickly understood that this is a kind of a cutthroat industry. You're here today and gone tomorrow. I had some really good advice, you know. People like Barbara Windsor, you know, she's been there, done that, wrote the book sort of thing. And she would say, she said to me, she said, television's a fantastic industry to be in, Craig, when you don't need it. But just be careful, because one day if you need it, then it's not as nice. You see the ugly sides of it then.
It's a very different
side.
I
started to see that. And in them days, there was no social media, remember? So I did need TV, or I did need interviews on radio, which kind of got me in the press. You know, we've got thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cuttings of press, because that's what reinforced one of the others up then. Nowadays is a completely different world. The social media props up all of that, you know.
So we're having to do TikTok and get on all that now.
Yeah, exactly, you know. And again, I didn't really want to be a part of all that. I mean, I used to bump into Big Brother winners and Big Brother housemates all over the place, and they go, oh, Craig, I've been chatting to you for years on Facebook. And I go, I'm not on Facebook. I've never done it in my life.
Really?
Facebook's been around 10 years now, 15 years. I've never done it. Generally, I haven't got an account. And we keep having to, my PA at the time, keep having to write to Facebook to say, someone's impersonating me again, here's his passport, and blah, blah, blah. And you get him taken down. A week later, someone else will be me again. So Facebook said to us in the end, you've got to do your own. You've got to get your own up.
Because then that's the official one.
That's the official one, and then everyone else can't copy off you.
What about your mental health in all of this? Have you ever had times where you have really struggled mentally?
I've got to be honest, no, I haven't. I've felt very low at some points. I've been very, very, very lucky, and I've had some tragedies as well, you know, in life and in business, and I've been let down by friends, I've been let down by family, I've been let down by businesses and jobs that you kind of build your hopes up, you know, even on TV programs. But for me, I think, as from a very young age, I started to build my mental strength as a young age, I think. Whether that's right or wrong, but I believe it's put me in good stead.
What was the catalyst? Why do you think you started building that strength? Was there like something that happened?
Yeah. I mean, I was 13 years of age. Yeah, my dad takes my dog for a walk. We go to pick my mum up from a bar. My mum and dad were quite poor, very poor. We lived in a little flat above a shop in a rough part of Liverpool, sort of thing. And my dad takes the dog for a walk, gets run over and killed by a drunk driver. So all of a sudden, you know, you're 13 years of age, you've been told you lost your father, who that's your rock, that's your strength, that's your person you look up to, and you know, if you're scared, you go to him, sort of thing, you know.
And it's just so unexpected, right?
And then, yeah, real sort of unexpected and heartbreaking, and then to see the suffering my mum went through and my sister went through, and it was a slow process to process it, a slow period. But then all of a sudden it was kind of like, you know, I'm small and we're going to be bullied. I better start boxing. I better start doing this. And then I started working in a butcher shop at 13 every day after school. My wages was £10 a week, and I felt rich. But what I was doing was I was bringing some food home to help my mum. Mum had to have 3 jobs to look after me and my sister. So I started helping, because I worked in a butcher's, we could bring home sometimes free meat or cheap meat, and there was an apple barrel next door to it, so we could bring home some of their leftovers at the end of the week, you know. So I helped supporting my mum in a way. You quickly grow up, you start to becoming, and one of my uncles said to me, and it was really, really scary, he said to me, like, and he's a big man, and I'm this little 13-year-old boy, like, and he was going, Craig, you know, you're the only man in the family. You've got to protect your mum, you've got to protect your sister. I was shitting myself. I was so scared, thinking, how can I physically protect my mum? How can I physically protect my sister? We live in a rough part of Liverpool. There's a lot of crime. This was in the 80s. There's riots going on and everywhere, you know. I was just like, oh my God, how can I, you know, do this? So I just had to kind of man up quick, take a responsibility that I didn't really want to, you know.
Do you think that's something you've still got today that's driven you? Because even with the Big Brother, the reason you was going there wasn't for you, it was for somebody else. This responsibility to always be there for others.
Maybe, Matt, yeah, be there for others. And I like that role. I like helping others. I generally do. I've helped thousands of charities. Yeah. And I like giving them my time, help and support them in whatever I'm doing. I like them more than I go and do a personal appearance and get paid thousands of pounds for. You know, I get more satisfaction out of doing that. You've got to do both, because you've got to pay the bills as well, you know, of course, that's how it works. But for me then, I just worked every day at school. You know, we mentioned on my podcast earlier that I had a bad time in school, teachers telling me I got expelled all the time, and I'd sag off school to go and work because I was earning money. You know, the school board would tell me, Mum, she's in trouble, and I'd be like, well, I'm getting a career. There, I was only a butcher, I was getting a career, and I was getting money, and I was helping my mum. So I was like, well, I'm not going to school. I'm refusing to go. And you know what they did for me? They set up, and it's quite weird because we ended up getting a contract called E213, which is Entry to Employment. I was the first person they ever did it for in Merseyside. The school teachers were kind of glad to get me out the way because I was trouble, basically, in school. They said, okay, you come into school for 2 days a week, and you can go and work in the butchers for 3 days a week, and you won't get the legalities onto your mum. I was like, done. Shake hands, let's do it. So I was going to earn more money then. Now I've only got to put up with school for 2 days a week, and I can go and earn more. But I was hanging around in the butcher shop then. I was with an older guy who was my boss, and his dad as well. So they were kind of a big brother and a father figure to me then, giving me lots of good guidance. Even business advice. It was a family-run business. So by the time I was 17, the moment I got my driver's license, because I was driving a little bit beforehand, as soon as I got to 17, passed my test, I'd go to the abattoir, buy in all the meats and bits and pieces for the shop. I'd do all their cashing up, do their, you know, very basic bookkeeping, started to learn the business skills and get the confidence. I was serving behind the counter, so I was confident on talking to older people, you know, so all these things may not have happened if I hadn't lost my dad.
Interesting. And it's interesting as well, you hear people say, are entrepreneurs born or made, but it feels very much with you it was made through the circumstances, through the necessity, through it's really interesting to hear. I'm aware that we're running out of time and of so much that I'd love to chat about, and we said it earlier, didn't we? We could just talk for hours.
Yeah.
I'd love to know a little bit about, because obviously Big Brother literally pioneered reality TV. Like before Big Brother, there wasn't really reality shows, right? But here we are 24, 25 years later, reality is massive and it's very diluted now. There's shows for everything. What's your opinion on reality TV now and where it's come from and what it's become?
It's evolved in a direction where I believe it can be potentially dangerous for individuals that go on it, for their mental health and the stability of who they are and what they are. There's always a danger of it. It can be edited in a way that they're not approving of, and it's out of their control. And I think reality TV, as kind of, they have an agenda and a direction of what they want to create, how they want to project people in there, and what they want as an outcome from it, whether they want the headlines in the newspapers, the drama. They don't really, in my view, don't really care about the individual's personal feelings or mental health. I know they have been shouting about that a lot more and claiming they are doing it a lot more.
But is it actually?
When I watch programmes, I won't mention them because they'll be upset with me about it, but when I watch some of the reality programmes that are on now, I don't believe that their best intentions is maybe to bring someone like you on to find love. It's more about structuring it for the entertainment, the shock value at any cost or price.
What do you think is the solution? Because it's that supply and demand thing. Clearly, as the British public, or the public, whatever country you're in, they love seeing the drama, they love seeing people struggle, which says a lot. That's a conversation in itself. But while that's there, TV shows are going to do what works, right? What people want to watch. So what do you think what's the solution?
I don't think it's a one-word answer for the solution, is it? It's evolved and it's a multi-trillion pound industry because it's combined the internet and the votes and the phone calls and interaction side of it. So it's not going to go away for a long time. I think they're going to keep taking it further and further. You know, this one, Laura and I, and look, I'm guilty of it. Laura and I have just watched the 11th series and about 35 episodes of Married at First Sight Australia. And I'm totally drawn into it because, and I can half see them drawing them into a trap, and you know that's going to be brought out in there and things like that. So I know the mechanics of how it's worked.
You're still watching.
But they are naive and can't see it. But I still watch it as a viewer. So I'm just as guilty as the other millions of people, hundreds of millions all over the world, who are feeding this monster, let's call it, feeding it. So I don't really know, Matt, what the solution is to it. I believe they should be a little bit more genuine of how it maps out. I believe they should stop trying to structure it as much as with their agenda and let it be a little bit more raw, like the first Big Brother, and see how it naturally evolves out.
So it's kind of like stripping it back to what it was.
Yeah, but maybe that's not interesting enough. Someone once told me on a radio station, if you put our Big Brother out now, it would be so lame, tame and boring. No one would be interested.
Do you agree? Do you think it would be?
I don't know, I haven't watched my one.
Right, yeah.
I watched all the others after it. I kind of have to agree. You know, Nasty Nick for writing down people's names on a piece of paper.
It's not that big of a deal
That was
now.
headline news, you know.
But there's also another thing that things go in cycles, and sometimes you can only go so far with going more dramatic, more crazy. You know, sometimes people then want to... I think with social media, there is a movement now for people being real. You know, we've done all the influencers in Dubai with the Rolex watches showing off. People get fatigued with that.
Yes.
And I hope the similar thing can happen with reality shows where people actually get the fatigue of... We've seen everyone screaming and shouting at each other at a dinner party.
we're bored
Let's
of
just
that.
see real people. You know,
be
genuinely...
happy and be nice, like, I mean, I personally would like to see that, yes. Whether it's not, there's millions of people out there who are experiencing what they're seeing on telly, feeling low, and that's their lift up, or I can compare to that, so that's the thing that I'm happening. And then, you know, it's arguable to say a lot of reality TV programs have made people very famous, very wealthy, very likeable, some unlikable, you know. So while it's still regurgitating individuals out like that, a lot of people want to do that. Do you know the Learning Skills Council? They did a survey to people leaving school at 15 or 16, and they were asked, what do you want to be when you're older? And something like 84% of them, their first answer was, I want to be famous.
Wow.
And their second question was, what do you want to be famous for? I don't know, just want to be famous.
Wow.
Which is really scary.
I just think that's a really sad thing to think, that people don't even know why they want to be famous, but it's what they want. So just to start wrapping up, I want to go through a few kind of general life questions that I ask to my guests. The first question is, as you reflect on your life, what would you say is some of the best advice you've received and why?
Ooh. The best advice I've received.
And it could be for anything, like, you know, navigating your career or relationships or, you know, anything.
I think it's just generally people really saying be yourself, because I think that's kind of, I've only ever tried to be myself, whether it's on reality TV show, chat shows, or my own or online videos, you know, it's all just trying to be myself, not try and be anybody else. And, you know, that time I mentioned earlier with Barbara Windsor, you know, some of the advice that she was giving me was kind of like, that's so true. You've got to listen to people who've been there, done it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What about the flip side? What's some of the worst advice? You know, when people tell you one thing and actually it turns out to be nonsense?
Even some agencies, really, where they've been kind of saying, no, you need to do it this way, or stay with us and we can just look after you, don't need anyone else. And now where I've broke away and don't have an agency, you know, we've tripled our turnover.
Wow. That
sort of thing. Yeah.
I think in that industry as well, it is, people are very naive, right? And they just take what they're told at face value. Through experience, you learn and you know who to trust, who not to. What's one of the biggest mistakes you feel you've made in your life, and what did it teach you?
Probably one of the biggest mistakes was taking on a business partner that I didn't know enough about and putting in, you know, pretty much my life savings and about 6 houses secured against it. In a business where you're having to rely on other government or public fundings to feed it and uphold it as a business. So again, just being naivety, I'd say to anyone, you know, if they're going into business again with somebody else, is trying to be equal, you know, what you're putting into. I treated people as I like to be treated. You know, I don't tell people lies, and whatever they want from me, I'm honest and open, you know, and I kind of jumped into it really deep. They turned out not to be that way, and I trusted them and thought they'd be as trustworthy as me, and they weren't. So this show, Success School, basically the premise of it is that traditional education only taught us so much, but actually there's life lessons, there's things when it comes to mindset, there's things around nutrition and physical health, and then obviously there's finances and business and some of the stuff we've spoke about today. So if there's anyone listening now, if you could leave them almost like you're on your deathbed, and it's like I'm going to leave you with 3 lessons about life, that if you stick to this, if you follow these 3 pieces of advice, you're going to live a happy life, a healthy life, and a fulfilling life. What would be the 3 lessons that come to mind? What are the 3 lessons I'd say? Firstly, I think you mentioned about school. I think school's a bit outdated, and it's struggling catching up with the modern world that we live in, of what you're teaching children in school. I think it's a bit narrow-minded what they're being taught. I don't believe they're being taught enough on finance. Don't believe they're being taught enough even on mental health and physically how to look after themselves. So my advice to give to young people at any age really is your mental health and physical ability is the most important thing to you at this point, I believe, because now I'm getting on, I'm 53 in October. If you don't look after yourself mentally or physically, there's not much you can give back. Well, there's not much, sorry. Let's say you can't give as much as you'd like to give people back, because we're all guilty of spending too much time working, etc. And we work so much until we get older and sick, and then all the money you saved you pay on your health. You know, it's coming back on itself, isn't it? You know, so I think young people need to look after your mind, and I think a good way of looking after your mind is looking after yourself physically. I don't mean go training every night and try to look great, but what you eat. You know, because what you put in your body and how you put it in your body is very important, isn't it? You know, because if you haven't got your physical, I believe in what's helped me. I've always had the physical strength, which has been able to keep my mind strong and let me get over all the hurdles and all the problems I've come against. So that's about the most important thing, is your physical and your mental health to me. Once you've got all them good and staying in place, you can help your family a lot more. You can be more successful in your businesses of what you do. You probably work harder. Okay, I'm not saying working hard is the right thing to do. You know, I believe you should work hard, but try and focus more on the work that what makes you happy than as opposed to what makes you get the money in. And I've learned that from over the years, you know. If you can focus more on what makes you happy, you get more rewards from it as opposed to just money. You got to get the balance right. And then you will work harder, like you say, because you're enjoying it anyway, so you're going to get bigger. And there's a phrase that I say a lot on this show, which is, you know, you have to be selfish to be selfless. And I think a lot of what you're touching on there is all linked to that as well. The more you give to yourself, the more you say, no, I don't enjoy that, it might make me money, but actually it's not what I want to do. The more that you are selfish initially, the more you can give, the more you can be selfless, right? Yes, yeah. And it's interesting, I've seen a few videos out there online where you've got homeless people and people have gone and give them a meal or chatting to them and chatting away to them, and they go and take that meal. I did it myself at the train station the other day. A homeless man asked me and I bought him a coffee and I was buying a sandwich, a toasty, so I bought him a coffee and a toast, same as me. And I went out and give it to him and I watched him walk across the platform and share it with somebody. And I thought to myself, it's the people who have the most, the people who have the least give the most. The moment he's asking for a couple of pounds for because he needs some food and drink, I've just give him the physical food and drink, and he's gone and shared that with somebody. But that's probably all he had that day.
He still shared it.
He still shared it. If you look at all of us around, think of all what you've got, would you give half of that away? Probably no. Probably not, no.
And I think that's a good lesson. A lot of people think, oh, when I'm at this point in life, then I'll give back. And I think what that teaches you is, you know, if you're not giving it now, you probably never will. No. What's next for you? I know we've got Mr. and Mrs. DIY. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, Laura and I, my wife, we set up Mr. and Mrs. DIY, which is an online, which is a YouTube channel where we just create online videos, and it's free for everybody to learn from. You know, I believe that most people, if you're lucky enough to buy your own house, biggest investment you're ever going to make in your life for many people, you've got to have a responsibility of maintaining it and looking after it the best. So our videos is to just show people how to maintain, improve a property, keep the value of it up, and do a bit of upcycling. You know, this bar we're sitting on here was one of our videos that we've done. Half the things around my house are things that we've built for online videos. So we started that up 3 or 4 years ago. It's going great. We just want to do more and more online videos, and we're pushing it across all our social media channels as well. And this as well, these podcasts, I've really enjoyed chatting with you. We've done your podcast. We've done my one earlier on today. You were my 10th guest.
Yes.
And hopefully there'll be many, many more.
I love the YouTube as well. I've literally just bought a new house that needs loads of work doing. So I'm going to binge the
Please do.
Mr. and Mrs. DIY. Craig, it's been a pleasure. Genuinely,
Thanks,
honestly, thank you for your time today. And I think for just being like so open about everything, because I think one of the subjects we've covered a lot today has been like this idea of, you know, people that, like you said, 80, however many % it was, of children wanting to be famous. But it's actually just what really rings true about you is you were never in it for that. And I think that's the reason you've had such longevity, because you're a genuine person that's doing things for the... Well, I think he is anyway. He seems like, but no, thank you for that. And final question just before we finish. Craig, what is your definition of success?
When I look at my children, see them playing in the happiness, you know, just at the weekend, bouncing around till I was sweating on the trampoline we had outside of our kids, just hearing them laugh, you know, they're the biggest achievement for me, is the kids. Than anything else. Yeah. Craig, thank you. Pleasure. Brilliant.